I'm a machine intelligence developer. I work with algorithms day to day to process data, to do different things. Artificial intelligence, I don't have a great definition. I should probably look this up. But artificial intelligence has something to do with algorithms that can help make machines learn to emulate or imitate something that we may call intelligence. So in this specific case, I worked with an algorithm that learns how to create drawings, sketch drawings. Like a child might do of a house, the algorithm can also learn to create a drawing similar to that. My work specifically related to blends. So taking a drawing that a child may make of a house and a drawing that a child may make of a washing machine, or just a simplistic drawing. So taking a drawing of a house, taking a drawing of a washing machine, and making something that is at the same time a house and a washing machine. A drawing that is represents both categories at the same time. So I probably would not have stopped. It's not the best place for a concert, I think. A lot of people are on their way somewhere, or they're rushing, maybe they have headphones in. I don't know who Joshua Bell is, or I didn't know before. I'm just not too into the music scene, or classical music scene. But people who do appreciate it, maybe they would have stopped. So art is a really, really complicated question. Especially because some of the work that I've done involves machine learning, and one of the questions that we want to know is, can machine learning produce art? So I looked a little bit into it, and what I found was that it's extremely complicated. There's no consensus. People are almost agreeing to disagree. For me, art probably involves expressiveness, probably involves some element of communication. There are some schools of thought that say it's institutionalist, or there are other definitions, but I probably go along the line of that it's some form of expression. Yeah, I absolutely think it has purpose. I think art is such a nebulous term that it involves a ton of stuff. One of them could be expressiveness, as I mentioned, or communication, in which case it would definitely have a purpose for someone to be able to express themselves or to communicate an idea. So a lot of the inspiration that I see is in previous works. So previous works of art that I like. One of them is a painting called La Jungla by Wilfredo Lam. And he's a painter from Cuba. And it's this great piece that has a bunch of characters all mashed in, mixed in. I'm personally really into colonial era art in Latin America. So a lot of my inspiration would come from those artists. Yeah, so essentially on a very high level, artificial intelligence takes a lot of samples, a lot of examples, and it kind of learns how to group them up. Kind of learns how to find what we call features inside that data, and it learns a representation for those features. So on a really high level, all it's doing is it's taking a bunch of examples, it's trying to find a trend or a feature, something within that data. It learns a more efficient representation or compressed representation for it, and then it can then work on that representation. So these are examples of visual blending. It's another emergent field that's really getting big right now. And it's important because various thinkers, philosophers, and even scientists have identified this ability to blend as something that's probably uniquely human. No animals or other creatures on Earth have evidence of being able to blend right now. That seems to be a big part of why we can invent things, how we invent, how we create science, how we think. Even language might have something to do with blending. So here they're trying to see if machines can do a similar sort of blending, specifically in the visual domain. These are two examples of artificial painters that blend between specific categories. On the left is something that blends between pig, angel, and cactus, 3 categories. On the right is an algorithm by Shizuka, or called Shizuka, that does something very similar. A human will, by hand, decompose a bunch of drawings into little parts, and the algorithm can then blend those parts. What's interesting about my research and the most recent research is that we do not separate these parts by hand. We instead allow a neural network to learn to identify parts of the drawing and decide for itself, essentially, if that part represents a man or a bird or a house or any other category. So that's a very interesting question. I've also thought about that myself for my work. A lot of people are thinking about that too. A lot of times I think about creativity as well, not just art, but creativity. Machines probably have the capacity to do some sort of art. There's already examples of algorithms that have generated works that were sold in art auctions for quite large sums of money, and that people have treated as art either by hanging in a museum or other places. It's difficult to give a yes or no answer for this because art is also not defined, but in my opinion they probably do have the capacity to create some sort of art. Whether that can be defined as art for many people is still an open question, but I definitely think it's possible. So AI is definitely exploding, but it can't do everything that humans can. And a big part of that is the data set. It has to learn on data. If it doesn't have that data, it can't learn. And the other thing is that right now it works on the majority of the data. So it can find a big trend in it, but it's never going to be able, well, maybe not never, but it currently cannot find very uncommon representations that we might do. So there's a lot of examples of work of art that specifically break with tradition. For example, Impressionism, it was a big break from tradition to have very quick brushstrokes. And machine learning right now doesn't do that. It does not break with tradition or technique. There have been some attempts to have it do similar functionality, but right now it's not there. So I think humans still have a huge role in art. They're always going to have a huge role in art, especially if art is sort of this idea of expressionism or communication. Then humans are always going to want to express themselves, and really a machine is not taking over that task from them.